Barbara Matz, 22 Mahaley Street. I move that the town enact the zoning article in the form set out in the warrant number 22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to enact the warrant article as set out in Article 22. Ms. Metz, do you have a statement explaining what you would like to
Yes, I do.
support the motion? Thank you.
I am speaking in support of a yes vote on warrant article 22, zoning by citizen petition to amend section 8.4 mixed use regulations. We really were not sure if it would be best to request a vote on the citizen petition tonight or to delay it for some future meeting. But out of respect to the effort that has been made by the town to organize and for you to attend tonight, we have decided to present this warrant article 22 for a vote, especially since this warrant article is not something new and different. Rather, this is a straightforward issue to reclaim our town voice for this exact same modification that voters approved last year with overwhelming support. So if this feels like deja vu, like we have been here before, discussing the same issue to modify the density requirements that apply to mixed-use development in an MXD zone, then you are correct. Last year, at our 2019 ATM, this same exact warrant article was presented for a vote by our town planning board, and the same exact warrant article was overwhelmingly approved by our town voters. So why are we here again to vote on the same issue? Unfortunately, last year the town did not publicize the amendment for this modification in due time prior to our vote. So one interested party opposed to our vote seized this opportunity to bring the issue to our state attorney general, who consequently overturned our majority vote, not because of any problem with its content, but based only on the procedural error. There are many reasons why this zoning modification is important, not only to the neighborhood that is within the MXD zone, but also for its implications to the well-being of our entire town. As Section 8.4 of the zoning bylaw now stands, there is only one MXD zone in the entire town of Great Barrington that has no controlling dimensional requirements. Without these proposed modifications to Section 8.4 of the zoning bylaws, there are no restrictions on how a piece of land can be developed in this one particular zone, and there is no other designated zone in this town that allows for such a lack of restrictions. This essentially means that in this one MXD zone, a developer can grab any small lot, fill it up from curb to curb with building structures, squeezing in as many tenants as possible to get the greatest bang for his buck. Quality of life issues for the future residents, as well as the surrounding neighborhood, are bulldozed along with any trees, green spaces, and wildlife that get in the way. I am basing my support of a modification to this mixed-use development article in response to a site plan that has already been drawn up for a lot within this particular MXD zone. This is on South Main Street, Route 7, between Mahaley and Manville Streets. The plan is to squeeze in 4 separate flat-roof housing blocks to include 22 housing units and a retail space, parking spaces, sewer and waste removal facilities, 2 driveways, full lighting, etc. All this on 6/10 of an acre of land at the entranceway to the center of town. Previously, there was a 2-family home on the same lot that the developer bulldozed.
Ms. Metz, you may have one more minute.
I'm almost done. So, I thought we had 5 minutes,
3,
not 5 to close.
1.5 minutes. Go ahead.
I want to be very clear that I am totally in favor of new housing in our neighborhood, and the many neighbors I have spoken with are in agreement on this. Anyone who is familiar with Mahaley Street and the surrounding streets knows that the area has historically been, and is today, a mix of single, 2, and multifamily residences, offices, and businesses in a residential setting. One of the arguments forwarded last year by the developer was that he would have to build 22 residential units on the 6/10 of an acre lot in order to be profitable. Really, new housing, even housing that is affordable to our Berkshire workforce, has been going up over the past 2 years throughout our town and the county. At Monday's meeting, we talked about 14 residential units being proposed for 7.5 acres in Housatonic. On Bridge Street in Great Barrington, construction is ongoing for the 45-unit Bentley Apartments on a vast 8-acre site. that is to set aside 1 entire acre for Riverfront Park. Another housing project is being pursued at 910 Main Street for mixed housing on a 9-acre lot. What has been proposed for this development site facing Route 70 would introduce a totally out-of-character, urban-like residential complex of small crowded housing units to our town that is known for its beauty and respectful environment. There are other issues, including the master plan.
And I hope somebody will raise them.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
I'll wrap it up. And there are a number of other concerns which somebody else might discuss. Finally, in this time of coronavirus, I just would like to say it is incumbent upon us all to rethink how we live. Addressing residential density issues is not only relevant to the moment, but it is also critical to our survival as we move forward. Requiring at least a 2,500 square foot of lot area per dwelling unit is a step to avoiding congestion living when we are all trying to stay healthy.
Thank you very much.
I ask you to vote yes on this. Thank you.
At the microphone to my right, please state your name and voting address.
This is Pedro Cachano, 5 Abbey Hill Drive. I'm also a member of the planning board. I'd like to start by discussing correcting the petitioner by saying that every lot in the entire town is subject to some sort of setback requirement, front yard requirement, lot coverage, and height. So to say that buildings in the MXD are not subject to anything, and that it's a wild west out there is misleading. The question at hand here is about the density requirement, and the petitioner is correct by stating that this article was approved last year at our town meeting. And I consider it fortunate that the article was sent back to us, because what the density requirement would have done is to perpetuate and promote the construction of large, luxury type apartments and dwellings in any mixed-use development in the entire town. By going back to the original requirements, which was essentially 0, we allow for, or the town, or I'm petitioning for, or at least arguing for the fact that it's much better to give developers, builders, investors the option to be able to build different size apartments that would create more equitable housing situations within the town, where we can possibly build anything from a studio apartment to a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom and a luxury apartment if the developer so desires. So if everybody listening here wants an equitable housing situation in our town, I would recommend that you vote against this citizen petition.
On the left?
Good evening. I'm Brandy Nelson, 28 Barrington Place. I'm also the chair of the planning board. Just want to make it clear that the planning board recommended a no vote on this warrant article. We recommend a vote of no, particularly pertaining to what Mr. Pachano said, and I will second what he said. But in addition, because this item was voted on and came back to the planning board after last year's town meeting, the planning board has put forth a revised petition that addresses this same issue that will hopefully be forthcoming at a special town meeting. If you vote yes, you'll be creating a potential conflict between what the planning board spent nearly a year putting together. So I recommend you vote no on this citizen's petition.
Are there any further points to make on this motion on Article 22? I think I see one coming.
Good evening, I'm Michael Carden, 12 Mahawi Street, and I support this petition. Several times over the fall, we asked the planning board and the town planner to put this petition back on the agenda. They didn't refuse, they just didn't bother to respond to us. Then they had a vote this year. It came out to a 4-1 negative recommendation, which is contrary to last year's 5-0 vote in favor. As far as I know, there was no discussion at the planning board on this particular article. This petition does have the direct effect of imposing some density requirements for the only section in town which does not have any. It would impose a density of 2,500 square feet, which is the lowest. Right now, there would be 22 units with 32 bedrooms and only 22 parking spaces. In today's age, I estimate the parking spaces would be about 50 or 60 that would be required. Mahawi Street is rather narrow, only 23 feet, going from Maple Avenue to Main Street. The Fairview ambulance comes down that. The police cars, Fairview ambulance comes down all the time. Police cars sometimes, and fire trucks. If there were a line of cars parked out on the street, it would be reduced to one lane of traffic at either end with a delay at either end. This will be dangerous to all citizens. There have been 5 different housing plans submitted by this person over the last 12 years, including luxury condos for about $600,000. The current plan, I think, calls for $1,400 for a 900 square foot apartment. That is not affordable housing. That is not workplace housing. We neighbors are in favor of workplace housing. But don't get ridiculous. Barbara cited the Bridge Street project, the one down, I think it's 940 Main Street, there's one, and the one in North Plain, which has 14 units on 7 acres. Here they want 22 units on 6/10 of an acre, which includes 7 maple trees. One of them is 200 years old. And to cite the developer's own arborist, other potential issues include the future plans to develop this lot with buildings and parking areas which will rebuild within the root zone of this tree. Such construction will create extensive soil compaction. I haven't pitched over my deck, but I'm getting over it. Excuse me. Create extensive soil compaction by equipment and asphalt, which will cause root loss and accelerate the tree's decline. So in other words, we're going to lose 7 trees. Now, I take that in account, but recently the town applied for an MFP action grant to engage, quote, engage typically underrepresented stakeholders and communities to, close quote, to, quote, result in a better understanding of the needs of such communities to better inform climate change adaptation strategies. I have a better proven strategy. Stop authorizing the destruction of trees.
Mr. Chairman, you
With
used up your
these-
3 minutes. Can you wrap it up?
With these in mind, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask the chair of the planning board to have the microphone and respond. In particular, did the planning board have a hearing on this warrant article and did have make a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, the planning board did in fact have a hearing on this matter. It was a public hearing, and there was presentation and deliberation, and we recommended a no vote because the planning board had taken this item up separately and had proposed a modification as a warrant article for this year's town meeting, so we don't want to create a conflict.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on this article? 10 seconds.
The warrant by the planning board does not address density.
Thank you. To my right,
Can you hear me?
yes we can.
Jonathan Hankin, 43 West Glen Road. I'm a member of the planning board. Michael made a lot of misstatements. I will correct them all. Basically, development is limited by a lot of things. It's limited by required parking. It's limited by the allowed massing, the height. It's limited by the building setback requirements. And to say there are no limitations is crazy. But Pedro's absolutely right that if you can build, as a developer, if you can build a certain envelope, whatever that is, and you could, if this were to pass, and maybe you could put in 7 units, but they could be all 2,500 to 3,000 square foot units, or you could build 15 units with a mix of large and small that makes a lot more sense, but this would prohibit that. So I really hope you vote no on this. Thank you.
Steve Green, 87 Railroad. I think there's a couple issues here. It seems from my recent experience in the past couple of years, in fact, the planning board is averse to parking downtown, and so if Mr. Kernan's assessment of the parking situation is even remotely close, I'm not surprised. And the other thing is that for the planning board to show up and suggest that they've got a different zoning bylaw that they're planning on putting forth, but not to bring it here for us to compare. We really have nothing to compare to, not having read it. I can do nothing but support this amendment.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds.
From what I've seen, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen in the planning board, it addresses a part of the amendment that has nothing to do with the units, the housing units themselves, the multifamily units, the dwelling units themselves, the 2,500 square feet. But I can quote, if I'm right, inside the village center overlay district, a minimum of 75% of street level floor space shall be reserved for non-residential use. So as far as I can read, this is addressing the resale area and not the residential area.
Thank you. You've already spoken, Pedro.
Can I respond? No, he's not the petitioner.
If it's really important, you get 15 seconds.
He's not the petitioner.
I just want to clarify one thing, and that in particular the lots in the area, the MXD that she's talking about is not in the village center overlay district.
Thank you for the clarification. This item requires a 2/3 vote, and I'm going to ask the tellers to count the vote rather than pretend to be able to count the cards in this setting. Are the tellers in place ready to count a vote? And you tell us know which areas of the lot they are counting, correct? All those in favor of the motion to adopt this revised warrant article, please raise your cards and hold them up until the counter has come by. Remember, this does until a 2/3 vote. I believe the tellers have completed the yes votes. You can put your cards down. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Have the tellers completed the count? Put your cards down. If the tellers would go to the microphone and report their subtotals.
Kathy, were you able to get the back, these back two? The back two. Not this row right here, not this row, but it's all on both sides.
Look at the backside. Look at the backside. And you.
Side or which side? Okay.
Okay.
The third and the fourth. You're on both sides. Yeah.
You are doing everything in the backside.
So not anybody here, not anybody in the next one. Right. But the third row, right, and the fourth, so we're back to that like this. Right, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to do this again. We didn't get the assignments right. Sorry, if this is novelty for us. That we worked the other night, and we apparently lost a step. So, would the tellers please get in place? One teller is doing the first section of the lot right in front of me, both sides. Another teller is doing the second section, both sides, and one teller is doing the back lot, all of it. And one teller is doing the front. One more time, taking the vote on Article 22, the motion is to adopt the proposed amended bylaw as in the warrant. All in favor, please raise your cards. Okay, I believe the second row teller is just about done. Okay, very good. Put your cards down. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Hold them up till the teller goes by. Thank you.
Yeah, it failed. There's no way they got 2/3. Might not even have gotten half.
fellows would go to the microphone over here and report their subtotals. You can put your cards down. Thank you very much.
Yes, 8, no, 5.
8 and 5.
Yes, 17, no, 26.
17 and 26.
Yes, 17, no, 22.
Yes, 17, no, 22.
Yes, 3, no, 29.
Yes, 3, no, 29. The vote does not reach 2/3, and the motion fails. Article 23, zoning by citizen petition to amend the mixed-use transition map